day 3 of my tales of learning and forgetting. And the alphabet aerobics continue with C is for community. So I'm about an hour away from the place where this all got started or reignited, which is a farm in Vermont where the people who run it, who mostly unschooled their kids, and suggested that I might start an unschooling school in their barn. And I thought about it for a while. Also, 2 days later, I met my first education mentor who ran a Sudbury school for 18 years. And I thought about it, and while continuing to travel around the country. And the answer that came to me was, I don't want to start one school. I want to start 100 schools, a community, a network. Trying to remember what Seth Godin has to say about the difference between a network and a community. I think he's partial to the latter. So let's call it a community. Although it is telling that in the vision document, I refer to it as a network. But what I really want is a community. One thing that's alive for me is having just finished The Courage to Teach. Parker Palmer talks about community of congruence. And in running these ideas by my mentor Charlie yesterday, he mentioned community of resonance. So there is something that brings us together in community. There are some reasons to be in community, like not being lonely, receiving support. And I owe some of this thinking to Michael McDonald. He was talking about communities of support I've got, and I don't need all that much. But communities to build something, right? Communities, and I suppose even communities of resonant thought and communities of congruence and values are one thing, but communities build around building something. There's something really attractive about that. What does community mean to me? Why? I appreciate the freshness of truly not knowing. I refer to myself as a community builder. I was teaching Cobalt, community building and leadership training. Teaching is maybe a little too strong. I was instigating it. We all had our mentor-mentee roles, trainer-trainee roles. What is community really? This is going to be the most boring podcast ever. I need to have guests or something. I guess another story is how I created the Village Workshop, which was a short-lived but very, very powerful community. And I wrote down, I wanted to create a dance workshop, a blues dance workshop for the people I was serving through private lessons at the time. So I started by writing down on a giant sheet of paper on the left side everything I didn't like about what the default way of teaching dance and anything really. So quick forgetting, irrelevant material, beginners always dance with other beginners, so they don't get the chance to feel it well. But a couple of the things were no student-student relationship and no student-teacher relationship. So that to me points to a need for community. And people made significant leaps in their dance in that workshop. But there were at least a couple of them who kept coming back month after month, paying the $200, $250, whatever it was. And they told me that the reason they did it is for the community. And I was a little confused. I was like, wait, but it's all about learning how to be better dancers, isn't it? And I was like, oh, community is pretty sweet too, sure. Suit yourself. And what happens in the village workshop is I did make sure that everyone at least had a chance to get to know each other. I would ask questions. So I would just go around with, there were maybe 10 beginners and 10 friendly advanced dancers. They would call it village elders. So we'd go around and we would answer the question, whatever question was like. It could be, what's your favorite breakfast? And I'm just smiling, thinking of some of the really creative answers to that, or your favorite dessert, that actually gave us a window into who the speaker was, or who's a person who's important to you. And one of our elders answers that and breaks down in tears because she hasn't seen her nephew in a foreign country in years. And that makes a difference, right? Like that vulnerability allows us to feel closer to each other. And then when it comes time to learn together, I think it's easier. Like we've seen more dimensions of someone, which comes with time, which maybe comes with situations of trust. How can we build a community? I signed up for a workshop I found on Parker Palmer's. Oh my God, this looks questionable. It's a little cold. I found a workshop on Parker Palmer's page. It meets twice a month for a year. It's about creating benevolent community. And then we talked to one of the workshop leaders on the phone, which was great. How will we create community in that space? I also signed up for a 2-week kind of Airbnb together with a group of total strangers where I just know the organizer. Late July. What will that pop-up community be like? What will they learn? I suppose the perhaps final wanderings on community for today are from the book, which gives this podcasty thing its title, which is the Tales of Learning and Book of Learning and Forgetting by Frank Smith. And he talks about how there's 2 theories of learning. One is the official theory of learning, which is the one we all know and has been around for actually for only like 200 years, at least in America. And that theory says that learning is hard. You need experts to understand the material and break it down bit by bit and sort of force feed it to you. And it's not fun, so you just kind of like make yourself learn as much as you can, but alas, you'll forget, and you'll forget soon, and we need tests and all this stuff. But that's actually not how people have learned for most of history. They have learned using the classical theory of learning, which has been around since the Greeks. And it just says, you want to learn something? Just hang out with people who already know how to who are already good at that thing that you want to learn. And don't worry about it. Learning is easy. You'll just totally absorb it. In one funny attempt at funny, at least the thing he says is, no parents ever say like, oh, I'm not worried about Johnny hanging out with the wrong crowd because I know he's a slow learner. Yeah. So in community, we learn quickly. We enjoy learning. And it's just a natural thing that's been somehow commodified and like shoved into these schools and classrooms, which I suppose still have the potential as communities of congruence, communities of truth seeking, as Parker also puts it. So community is one of the most important aspects of OROWS. I guess if nothing else, these video audio recordings are meant to help me further clarify my own thoughts on what OROWS is, as again charged by Charlie. Is community village mindedness? Am I in community with the next generations? How is life different when I choose to see it that way? Is community hospitality? I've been dreaming of having 100 school locations around the country, all of whom welcome people in to sit down and share their food, and give them a place to rest, like the old Christians' hospitality before it too became commodified. I don't know if I said anything worth listening to. Again, it's a little bit vulnerable just hitting record and then committing to putting it in a public place, but I will do that. And I will see you again, the record button and a little green light on my laptop tomorrow.